Welcome to the Journey of Growth podcast, episode 46. I'm ThE, the host of this event, which was created so myself and others can share perspective of it in hopes that one another's journeys will be relatable, establishes awareness, and inspires listeners to adopt and maintain such behavior. The definition of growth is a process of developing new skills, attitudes, actions, or reactions that can have a beneficial impact on your life and increases your overall well-being. If you would like to be a guest on the show, which could result in the development of skills and identity, you're invited to do so by reaching out to me at ThE Raps on Instagram or ThE Smith on Facebook. Today's featured guest is a friend of mine, and I would like to introduce him now. His name is Malik Kazi Jones. Hello, Malik. How are you?
Yeah, what is it? I'm good, man. All is well. May peace and blessings be upon you. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm glad you decided to take the initiative to engage in this unknown experience, which is an interview and conversation with myself. And hopefully through your actions and dialogue with me, you will be able to grow as an individual, which is the intent for this platform.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, and it's a pleasure to be here, man. Thank you. I heard a lot about your podcast. I really appreciate it, the work it is that you're doing out there in the community, and to get certain stories that usually be silenced heard. You know, Underground Railroad was one section of history that was lost, so they came out with the underground radio. You know, and the radio station was something that helped individuals get up to speed of what was going on, what was the news, you know, what it is that they should be doing. Is very informative, and I really believe that that's kind of like what you're giving back to the people. You know, it's like an underground railroad in a sense. It's like, hey, yo, you want to get on this train right here, get this information, this is where you come to. So I appreciate you, man, for inviting me and having me as a guest.
Oh, you're welcome. For those who are unaware of who you are, what can you tell me about yourself?
I'm Malik Kazi Jones. I'm from Richmond, California. I grew up in the heart of Richmond, you know, but I'm from Richmond, and South Side, Central Richmond, North Richmond, all was one at one point where we thrived as a community. So I carry that same principle to this day. I grew up playing sports, which I was a four-star recruit in baseball and basketball, 5-star recruit in football. Unfortunately, you know, I chose a route to be a hip hop artist because due to me not really being that doing that well in school. You know, the school system I really didn't like that much. You know, I didn't really understand or whatever. But through that process, I learned a lot. I seen a lot. I ended up becoming a father, and I'm so grateful for it. You know, my daughters, you know, my twin beautiful girls, you know, they out there doing very well. So, you know, I'm a mentor, I'm a coach, you know, through the Coaching Alliance and JT the Mentor, that's in association with the Warriors Basketball Academy. I'm also a wrongfully convicted, an innocent man sentenced to life without the possibility of parole that's fighting right now to get back to my community.
Okay. I appreciate your insight about yourself. I hope that you will experience the opportunity to be freed from incarceration due to you being wrongfully convicted. And
Right.
and my next question is, what would be your perspective of growth?
Growth is, I believe, what I make it. If I choose to learn through every action that I take, and I see the reaction of it, then I can look back at that and say, okay, I did that and I got this. So going the next time, I know if I was to do something, I should expect a certain kind of response or a certain reaction. And with the intelligence that I get from growth or growing up, it's going to be a learning process. And I have to be willing to understand what I am learning, as well as be appreciative for what I'm learning, and be humble enough to say that, okay, I was wrong doing something, and now I gotta fix it. I gotta start being right. And that determines on how we grow. Because I can see 30, 40-year-old men right now today, women as well, and you look at them and say, man, you in your second childhood. Because they have yet, their intellect has yet to grow. So I attach growth to also strengthening your intellect.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Okay, I can relate to what you're saying.
Yeah.
The next question is how are you currently growing?
Right now, I'm taking every class that I can get. I'm reading books. I take computer literacy class, a vocational trade. Right now, I have taken self-help groups, peer support groups. I've taken college courses. College is free, so I'm getting all it is that I can. Even though when I grew up as a youngster, I really didn't value education. Now I see the difference in what education can provide. You know, at one time, I was like, yo, I can't eat no diploma. It's not paying no money, you know. But now I see how it can pay money. So I'm taking everything I can. I'm on Dovo on here. They got a tablet right here that I'm using. They got a lot of classes on it. Got a lot of programs on it. So I'm educating myself to grow, to continue to grow, and to strengthen my intellect. You know, so I'm an author. I have wrote four books since I've been incarcerated. I'm chopping it up with my daughters, man, talking to them about just life principles, and they giving me some games, so I'm learning there. You know, they helping me grow a lot as well. I mentor the youth while I'm here, and it's the same, you know, with them. Just I'm learning from them on how they living in today's time, because a lot of these kids was born in the 2000s. I had got arrested, incarcerated in 2004. So I've been gone now for 22 years. And he is at 21, 22 years old right now, is telling me about the technology era. And I'm like, yo, I'm completely lost, you know? So, you know, I'm educating myself by not only listening to them, but then say, hey, yo, I got to get into a computer class. So that was one of the first things it is that I did, you know, to get back at least to level up, per se.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'll be listening to podcasts by Robert Kiyosaki, you know, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I'll be reading books from Coaching Legacy, developing character through leaders, developing character leaders through sports by Joseph Thomas, and giving me a perspective on how to actually handle today's youth and be productive in society while giving back, which is one of the passions of mine.
Mm-hmm. Okay, amazing. And I'm glad that you are being productive given the circumstance you're in. I'm also glad that you have resources that can help you I'm glad you have resources that help support you growing yourself through various courses as well as vocational activities. I'm curious to know what of the activities that you are engaged in and are participating, what is one that is attractive and appeals to you the most, if any?
I teach about business. You know, when I mentor, I try to reach the individuals where they at, because what I have learned as being a coach is the term coach derived from a stage coach. You know, a stage coach meet individuals where they at and take them where they want to go. So what I have learned as a coach, I say, well, you know, these youngsters don't know how to make no money. I know all about making money in the right way. Because I had started my record company, Realist Me Entertainment, me and my big cousin, ThE, may rest in peace, when I was 19 years old. And we had an LLC, and, you know, it brought us a lot of money. This is something that we both love to do. And, you know, not only is I'm doing what I love to do, but I'm making money while doing it, you know. And so when I look at the youngsters today, I say, yo, how are you making money? You know, and then, you know, we'll share, we'll chop it up, whatever. And then I see the need to know about starting a small business, learning how to operate it, learn how to go get funding for it. Because you could go get funding from the bank to fund your business venture, which is your dream or your passion, your talent, whatever, and be able to actually pursue it. Mm-hmm. And, you know, whether you're a millionaire or not, that's what I tell them. Whether you're a millionaire or not is not the point. The point is that you're doing something productive and you stand out of situations that we in right now. You don't want to put yourself in this situation because the majority of us is get out of prison. With the new laws that's coming out right now, if you do positive program of rehabilitation, you're going to get out of prison. But what you going back out there with? At least when you say you met me, that I gave you some game about starting an LLC. You know, so that's one of the things that I'm passionate about right now.
Okay.
And what I've been doing.
Yeah, I'm glad you discovered a venture that you're passionate about. And for me, I think an indicator that when a person chooses to engage in an experience, in terms of it being a benefit to them, is if they enjoy the process of the engagement. And so, because some people may not enjoy working for a particular job, which is a process, but if you enjoy the process, I think you're on a good path of not only growth but fulfillment. How would you relate to that statement?
Man, everything it is that I do, if I ain't feeling it, I ain't gonna do it. Period. Because, you know, feel that energy. You know, if I'm teaching a yoga class or something like that and I really ain't feeling it today, everybody gonna be like, hey, yo, you cool? You good? What's up? You know, so, you know, everything it is that I engage in, I'm really passionate about it. I'm really into it because I really believe in what I do. But this took degrees to get there, though. This took degrees. This took for me to be real with myself and say, yo, what you want to do with your life? You know, so I relate to you 100%. It's like, if I'm not going to be engaging in something 100%, if I ain't put my best foot forward, then that means I really don't believe in what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. For real. Mm-hmm. Or I lack the work ethic on how to maintain what it is that I'm doing. You know, so just keeping it real with myself is one of the things that I first had to come to terms with and said, do I even want to give all my time away, or do I want to give half of my time away? Conviction is a big thing for me. Like, if I'm convicted in what I'm doing, then I'm always going to go hard. You know, when I stepped on the football field, basketball court, baseball diamond, whatever I was doing, I'm like, yo, I'm here right now. I'm playing present in the moment right now. So regardless of what's going on at home, regardless of what's going on in the streets, this is where I'm at, and I'm going to give my coach my undivided attention, you know. And without me having that passion and that conviction, I don't see why anybody would even sign up to do something, because time is very valuable. That's something we can't get back. So if I want to give you some of my time, then I should value that as much as you do by being there. Mm-hmm. You know, so that's how I feel about that. I feel that individuals should really be honest with themselves and say, man, what I want to do with my life. And whatever you choose, be 100 with it. Mm-hmm. Don't 50% nothing. Don't 75, 80, 90% nothing. Not even 95%. If I can't do something 100%, I'm not going to do it. But with that passion, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say everything that I do, I'm going to give that effort, I'm going to give that energy, and people will be able to reciprocate that energy, because I believe also when you're a teacher, you're setting an example. When you're a leader, you're setting an example. So if people see that you give yourself to the people 6 to 7 days out of the week, they're going to be like, well, what you doing that other day? So, you know, in society, if we was to live like that and say, hey, yo, I go to work 5 days a week. I'm a teacher, though. But on 2 days a week, I'm doing something else. So if one of the students see you doing that something else, they may not want to come back to your class.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to be a teacher 7 days a week, even if you're not teaching class. You know, and that's kind of like where I'm going with that per se.
Yeah, I can agree with what you're saying. I think I relate to most of what you're saying. I think I may differ in terms of going completely into something 100% without, and I don't think you said this explicitly. I don't know if you were alluding to it, but based on my interpretation of what you were saying, it seems like if a person chooses to engage in an experience, they need to continue to go into the experience, even if they sense that this experience may not be fulfilling to them. Which I think there's been times where I've engaged in an unknown experience, not knowing if it, I would enjoy the process. But then when I did discover that I no longer wanted to engage in that experience, I did disengage. And through that disengagement, I did have a sense of fulfillment because I knew that I no longer wanted to be a part of that activity. So were you, in your earlier statement, were you saying that if a person engages in an experience, that regardless if they discover it while they're doing it, they should continue to engage in it even if it's not fulfilling to them?
Nah, first thing is, no, not at all. You got to do something that you're passionate about. I really believe that if, you got to keep it real with yourself. You seeing something that ain't fulfilling to you, then you shouldn't do it. Because at the end of the day, it starts with self. It starts with self-growth. Before I can help anybody else, I got to help myself. And that's for sure. I'm not insinuating that I should spread myself or anybody should spread themselves so thin, whereas it's just all about giving to somebody, to the people if I'm not feeling it no more. That's one of the things that I do really, really stress. It's like, do what you feel convicted to do, right? But if you feel convicted to do it, do it. Really do it. That's basically what I was saying. Once I made that determination and I say, this is what I move by, this is what the creator, or this is what my spirit, or this is whatever energy and influence you got behind doing what you're doing, if you believe in it and you trust yourself, then do it.
Okay. All right. I understand now. That makes sense. I can relate to that. My next question is based off of an earlier statement as well. You said that you are author of 4 books. What can you tell me about these books that you have written?
No doubt. So the first 3 is the Capo series. That's all a part of the Capo series. Book 1 was Champagne and Black Roses. And in that book, I talk about a young man, the main character, ThE, is going through a spiritual journey where he's seeing his family all together and united. And he's a refugee. He's from Cuba. His mother's from Brazil. His daddy is a descendant of Cuba. All of them is coming to America, and they chasing the American dream. But in the process of this American dream, they end up seeing that it was struggles and a lot of things that was unforeseen before they got here, right? So when he seen his family all together, he was like, I want to keep my family together. He started seeing them separated through the 80s, early 90s, due to the crack era and stuff. And he didn't know what was going on. So the feds ended up arresting his uncles. Streets ended up breaking his family up. So when he grew up in the streets, he thought that the only way to get his family back together was to get money, right? So he was out there chasing money from the West Coast to East Coast. And, he ended up falling for the same traps that his uncles fell through. But he was on a spiritual journey at the same time. This wasn't just about him being in the streets. He was learning. He was growing. And then he ended up as he grow up through his adolescent years, through his going into being a teenager, he started to see that the way how to go about it is about being a businessman and about being a family man. It just, even though he embraced the culture and the identity of being a family man, at first as a child, he was going about it the wrong way. So Champagne and Black Roses is about, okay, you got the good and the champagne, then you got the death too in the Black Roses. You can't be in the game and enjoy both. You're going to have your champagne, you're going to have your good moments, you're going to have the money, you're going to have the cars, you're going to have everything, right? The women and all of that. But it's a flip side to that coin, and that's what's in the first book. The second book is Diamonds and Pearl Handles. The third book is Dreams and Ambitions, right? And through each one of those books, he's still on a spiritual journey. It just is taking him in different places. He's meeting different people. They're on their own journeys as well, you know. And as I wrote the story, I related to individuals. Each character is their own life. You know, each character is their own life. And what I wanted to grasp was how a lot of my friends, man, they'll come from different countries and they'll lose their culture over here trying to fit in with the American culture. You know, in Diamonds and Pearl Handles is many different people, women and men in that book that's from different countries, whether it's Brazil, whether it's Argentina, whether it's Sudan, Ghana. And when they come over here, they just basically just say, okay, I'm American now. But America, you know, the culture in America is topsy-turvy. You know, you gotta still pick a certain direction, and they lost their direction. In the Capo series is where consciously I hope that individuals will get back to just saying, hey, I can't have the champagne, but I gotta remember about the Black Roses too. So I can't have the dreams, but you gotta also remember about having the ambition too. Like, I can dream right now saying, man, I want to have a mansion and a yacht and, you know, 4-5 vehicles, you know, outside of the house. Well, yo, I got to have the ambitions to go get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what that's about, you know.
Okay. Yeah, the way you described the series is very intriguing, and it seems imaginative and culturally relevant. So I hope that those who are listening to this interview will have an opportunity to read these novels, which I'll post a link in the bio. I'll post a link in the description of this episode so people can access this series, which I think is on Amazon. And then there is the Capo series is it a novel series?
Yes, those are urban novels. So those are the urban novels, and then the Rising, the fourth book, the latest one, is the educational informational novel. Now that one right there is about uplifting of people's intellect. So as I go through the urban series, you know, about getting, you know, the spiritual journey, this is more so about history. It's about, you know, spirituality, but it's also about financing and how it is that African Americans in this country have thrived through hundreds of years of oppression, depression, right? And we still made it, and we still making it right now. But I believe that we concentrate too hard on what's not being done for us or what somebody has done to us instead of what we can do for ourselves and what we are doing. I mean, we came a long way. We came out of slavery in just 400 years. There's some people that's been in slavery for thousands of years. You know, so, and everybody wasn't in slavery anyway, right? I mean, that's just a narrative where they say, okay, if you black in America, you was a slave. I don't believe that. I believe that it was individuals that got here before the slave ships even got here. So in the Rising, I actually talk about that. I say, well, who are you? And if you don't know exactly who you are, if you buried my papers to say, hey, yo, you know, this is what tribe you came from or whatever, then I'm going to think the best of who I am. I want to think I want to think that I've been here. My people came here from around the world somewhere, the continent of Africa, Al-Kibalan, and they came here and built the empire, and now I'm trying to get it back. That's what I want to believe. And in the Rising, I just talk about that. And I hope to have fun with the knowledge and the information that I'm sharing with people. It's to enlighten individuals. It's not a whole big, long story. You know, I just touch on a couple topics, 16 chapters. That's followed by the album as well. You know, this is 160 pages, and it's followed by an album that's coming with 16 songs, you know, to help people. You know, people want to ride with the music, and they want to listen to the audio book. That's coming as well. So, yeah, man, and I really hope to inspire individuals and uplift them to where they can feel like they are worthy, because people do feel like they are somebody. They just may not know who they are yet, and this will help them find their identity if they have not yet already know who they are.
That's interesting. And yeah, I hope listeners will also be open to reading the informational book called The Rising. I have listened to the no, I don't think I have listened to the album yet. Is the album available right now?
No, the album for the Capo series is available, and that's called Capo's Manifesto. So it's Kamikaze, Kamikazi. It's on all platforms, and it's titled Capo's Manifesto. So the music, all of the music that's on that album right there, is basically, it's like a soundtrack to the book. It's talking about the characters that's in the book. All of it is fictional. You can take it for what it's worth, but it's to highlight the characters in the book and to move the story along.
You are the first novelist that I've had on the Journey of Growth podcast, which you know, is very intriguing to myself, because I do enjoy reading fictional content. So what I'm curious to know is, what inspired you to become a fictional novelist?
Alhamdulillah. Well, growing up in the neighborhood, it was an individual, my big cousin named Tico, you know, T Cuts. Shout out, big bro. He asked me one time, he said, man, why you don't write a book? You know, because I write in story form. Like, a lot of my rhymes was in story form, poetic form and stuff. And he was just like, man, you should write a book. I was like, I thought about it, and I was like, nah, I'm cool, you know. And then I had watched this movie called Hurricane. And in that movie, it was starring Denzel Washington. And Denzel Washington, he was writing a book about, you know, how he was convicted and stuff. And it was some people that got a hold of his book when he was in Canada. You know, that was in Canada, and they came and actually helped him get exonerated. So when I got incarcerated on this crime right here, and I'm like, yo, you know, I'm doing everything it is I'm supposed to be doing out there on the street to stay free. I'm like, I don't know how I got wrapped up into this. And I started thinking about when I was a kid, when my boy Tico, he was like, man, you should write a book. And then I thought about Reuben Hurricane Carter, when he wrote a book and it helped him get exonerated. So I'm like, I know my situation is like Reuben Hurricane Carter. He know he was a street kid. He know he was a trouble kid, but he know he didn't do that crime. Same way with me. I know that I didn't do this crime. You know what I'm saying? I didn't even know nothing about it. So I was like, yo, I'm finna write me a book. You know what I'm saying? And my first book that I had wrote was really about, it was trying to get out of prison. So I said, you know what? Let me write down my thoughts first. So I had wrote the book, you know, and it was called The Diary. And when I looked at it, I wrote about, like, man, 300 pages. I was just writing, right? And then I looked at everything and I was like, man, I don't know, right? So I talked to my boy, the brother Shahid Akbar, which y'all know as the Jacker, and he was like, yo, bro, I sent him a copy of the book, and he said, yo, I think you should write it about a Muslim. I think you should write it about, you know, take your same story and write it about a Muslim that's struggling in the dunya. Like, the dunya is like the underworld, the street life and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do that. You know what I mean? So he really inspired me, you know, even though I was initially inspired to even write a book to begin with from T Cuts and, you know, from the movie Hurricane. Shaheed, that boy, exactly, he the one that really inspired me to write about that particular novel. Like, man, bro, this is our story right here. Because when he read it himself, he was like, man, he could see himself in it, see me in it, see my cousin, our people in it. And he was like, yo, you need to write about a Muslim struggling in the dunya. And then that's how it is that the spiritual element got involved with it, you know. And I really believed in that story too, because there's many people, like I say, friends of mine that was coming over here from different countries, and they was losing their way, man. He said they was like, you know, I had a Hawaiian partner, and he told me, he said, man, as soon as I got here, you know, the little like the pants that they be wearing, or the wrap that they be having. He said, man, he used to go to school with that, you know, in that wrap, in his sandals. You know, kids used to be like, you know, they used to be making fun at him or whatever. And he was like, man, I got money to buy Jordans. I got money to buy the Flyers gear. So he was like, man, he stopped going to school in his sandals and started rocking the J's. And I'm like, nah, man. But I met him in prison. This is a good dude. These are good dudes. And I'm like, man, I'm meeting them in prison because they lost their way. And I said, I looked at us. I looked at our people. I said, man, we the same way. We lost our way. You know what I mean? So that's really what it was, too. I seen that a lot of young African-American men and women is losing their way out there. And hopefully they can find their way. But, you know, the way to do that is to show them that I could relate to their struggle. I've been through it as well, you know?
Okay. Wow. Okay. I appreciate you elaborating and sharing your intentionality to write the fictional novels, which you call you said urban fiction, correct?
Yes, the Capo series, CAPO.
Okay. And in addition to you being a novelist, you also are a hip hop artist, which I have listened to an album of yours on Spotify, and I did enjoy. Is that album the Capo Manifesto album?
Yes. That's the Capo Manifesto album. Yes, that's the soundtrack actually to the book.
Okay.
That's the Capo Manifesto, the 16 songs, one poem, and it's just highlighting, you know, all of the real characters, or the characters that's inside the book, and it's giving background to their story as well. You know, so it's kind of like bringing the characters to life a little bit and helping the story move along. You know, so it's a Capo's Manifesto. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I did enjoy the album thoroughly, and I did like your lyrics, and your style is unique. It does remind me of like a East Coast form of hip hop in terms of your delivery. You know, also like the instrumentals that you selected. It does also remind me of like East Coast type of boom bap at times, or even some instrumentals that I can imagine the rapper Cameron rapping over. But yet and still, your style is distinct. And it lyrically, the lyrics were amazing. I wasn't bored listening to it. It wasn't repetitive. It wasn't the same use of words over and over again from one track to the other. Very imaginative and creative. So I highly recommend listeners of this interview to listen to the Capo Manifesto, and I will post a link for that also in the description of this episode. I'm curious to know, what can you tell me about your experience as a hip hop artist?
Alhamdulillah, too. I appreciate it, man. Man, I've been 27 different states as a hip hop artist. You know, when I was in class, I used to sit in class and I used to just be, you know, write my thoughts down on paper. And it was a form of expression. It was a way how I can get everything that I was going through out in a healthy manner, right? I was like, yo, I want the world to hear me with what the pain it is that I'm going through, that me and my people going through. So, you know, in my experience, I've met so many people, you know, from the East Coast to West Coast, from Mega, like you say, Cameron, but it was a lot of cats that was up in Harlem where I was at, uptown. And I met dudes, West Coast, down south, a lot of individuals, man, and our life experiences was the same. You know what I mean? We was living in the ghetto. We was trying to make it out, right? So, me, the brothers, the mob figures, FK, Fatal Connection, RBL Posse, 3 Times Crazy, E40, the Bay Area. We took our show on the road. We used to go places that, people just wasn't going to. Omaha, Nebraska, Kansas City, Mac Drake, rest in peace, that was my big brother. It was a lot that we seen, but we had to develop, we had to open the market as a hip-hop artist from the West Coast. Because like you said, it sounds like I'm an East Coast artist, but I'm from Richmond, California. Yeah, I used to go to Harlem. You know what I mean? I used to go over there. So I did, it's like, when I was over there, I seen individuals that were just like us in the rich, though, too. So it'd be like, if somebody go to the East Coast, they'll be like, man, I bet you it's somewhere, it's some city that remind you of something like in the Bay Area. Whether it's San Francisco, Pittsburgh, Vallejo, Oakland, Richmond, Berkeley. It's somewhere on the East Coast that remind you out here as well. So, and I was like, I was just related to both coasts. And I had, Rivet flow of, West Coast stories, East Coast flow, and I love my people, man. And my experience as a hip-hop artist was to embrace the culture of hip-hop. Where I was born at on a playground on the East Coast. You know what I mean? And shout out to the East Coast, man, and people out there in New York, Philly, my Akis in North Philadelphia. Man, Allah be pleased with y'all, man. Philadelphia Freeway, you know what I'm saying? May the brother continue to be at peace, and, may Allah continue to reward you. Mutai Bill, shout out to Mutai Bill, 40 Long, and Napoleon from the Outlaws. May Allah continue to reward you. But these are brothers that are Muslim in the deen, and, we took the hip-hop game to another level, but to give back to our people, and that's what I seen. I was like, man, I'm a voice of the streets. That's it. I love the lifestyle for sure, like, being able to travel and see different places. I went to Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Center. I went to, Malcolm X charter school, seeing what that was about, seeing what it looked like out there in Harlem. So, went to Washington, D.C. I traveled a lot of places being a hip-hop artist that I probably wouldn't have seen if, I was just an athlete or whatever. Unless I would have made it to the league, NBA or NFL. But, back then when I was traveling in 98, late 90s and early 2000s, it wasn't many of my friends that was in the NBA or NFL at that time. So I was kind of like setting the bar as one of the first ones from Richmond that was traveling to all of these different states. You know what I mean? And by the credit of hip-hop, I also was able to bridge gaps. Like, I don't have I would like to think that I don't have no enemies from Richmond. Everybody that's from Richmond, from my hometown, they know me as being an artist. They like, oh man, that's Kazi, man. That dude, he's a rapper right there. That's my folks from the Rich. Yeah, I'm from certain individuals, certain spots where I grew up at, but I grew up all over Richmond. So some people may think I'm from this part of town, that part of town, or the other part of town. I tell everybody I'm from Richmond, man. So when you hear people introduce themselves to me, they say Kazi from the Rich. Because I put Richmond on my back everywhere it is that I go. I remember, this is funny real quick. I'm not to go too long on this, but I was in upstate New York. I was out there in Syracuse, in the Q's. Shout out to my boys up there, Goldie and Shy. They said, they asked me, they said, yo, where you from? And I told them, I'm from the Rich. They was like, what? They said, what, Richmond, Virginia? I'm like, nah, Richmond, California. You know what I'm saying? They was like, all right. You know what I'm saying? And they was just thrown by that because it's like how I was moving out there, you would think I was from New York. You know what I mean? But it's just how I move is how I move. at that time, it was all about business. It was, I'm in the music business. I'm out here performing because they was in the music business as well. Brody was tied in with Wu-Tang Clan. That was his people. So, we out there, Method Man, Red Man, and stuff like that, man. We was out there really doing music, man. It's a lot of people, that embrace Bay Area and West Coast as artists. It just, I wasn't out there on no foolishness, you know what I'm saying? Because I got some dudes that would address that situation as well, you know what I mean? But through everything, East Coast artists, down South artists embrace Bay Area artists. They embraced us. I would even go to the point to say they really appreciated us for sharing ourselves with them. Because right now, almost every artist want to be independent. Independent started in the Bay Area.
I was unaware of that. And I'm glad you had the opportunity to meet renowned hip-hop artists on a national and global scale, such as a Method Man and members of the Wu-Tang Clan. Those are pretty amazing opportunities. And you also mentioned that you had a relationship with a popular Bay Area artist known as ThE. How did you encounter him?
Y'all, that's one of my brothers, man. He grew up in Richmond. He grew up in the rich, his mother Rita, shout out Rita, Mama Jack. And he grew up right there with my cousin, FedEx. So as teenagers, we was growing up in the rich, we used to have these like freestyle battles. We never really battled against each other, but every time we got around each other, we just wanted to rap. You know what I mean? And that was like Big Cuz at that time. That was like Big Bro. But he used to always be, him and FedEx was real tight. And then they moved from Richmond to Pittsburgh. So, cats from the rich wasn't really going to Pittsburgh that much at that time. So, I was like, I'm going to go out there with my cousins. So I go out there with Fetty, and he stayed right up the street from Mama Jack, you know what I'm saying, with Dalvin there, right? So I'm like, yo, so it's cool, man. So I go over there, me and Don, we playing ball, out in outside house. And, they stayed in a court. On the court, he had a basketball court right in front of the house, which we was playing, Hush, we sang over, that was kind of like, we was a brotherhood. As we was doing music and all of that, it was more so of a brotherhood first, anyway. And then, when we started doing music, they had the Mob Figures dropped, and Fatal Connection dropped.
Excuse me 1 second. 1 second. Can you talk a little bit louder?
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Go back to that albums you were talking about that drop.
Oh, yeah. So the Mob Figures dropped first in 98. And, the Fatal Connection, we started recording in 98. And our album didn't drop until 2000. So, when the album dropped, I was with the Mob Figures first in like 99 for a little bit until 2000. So, I'm riding around with them, they touring and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, they keeping it lit. You know what I mean? Like, everybody at that time wanted to just be, they wanted to be around the Mob Figures, you feel me? But I'm like, this is my family, though. These are my bros, you feel me? This is the people, right? So when Fatal dropped, it was like, okay, now it's like, we in the game, we got a little direction and stuff like that. We got more motion. You know what I mean? And, 3 times had dropped that same year. There was a lot of albums that was going on. But I seen that the Mob Figures was serious about music. And they wanted to really reach the people. And that's how Jack was. His energy was, like, a lot of people just look at the music that he came with. But look how many individual artists that he came and brought to the Bay Area. You know what I mean? Like, that was his passion back then. He wanted to give back to the people. But the only way how he knew how was through music. And it was the same way with me. I wanted to help the world, but it's like, how can I do it with just little old me? You know what I mean? I had to use my voice, right? So that's what kind of individual Jack was, though. He always reminded us the potential that we had. So, me and FedX, we had albums, and music that we was recording, but he was like, nah, y'all gotta do more. Like, y'all need to be in a lab. Like, Jack was like, bro, I just bought a studio, bro. We need to be recording in this studio every day. Like, yo, for real? Like, he like every day. So it's just his drive, man. His ambition was something that it just was like astonishing. You know what I mean? Like, man, his work ethic was like, he really believed that his purpose was to enlighten the world through his music. And that's why when I look back at his catalog today, I just smile, man. I'm so happy and I'm so proud of my brother, man, because he really did that. You know what I mean? Like, man, they it's like, man, Allah Ta'ala have blessed him with something, with a gift to the world. It's so many people that's Muslim today because of the brother Shaheed Akbar. When I relate to him, a lot of people know him as a Jack, but I say, Shaheed Akbar because that's what it is that he aspired to be. That's who he seen himself as. As a rapper, he was a Jack. You know what I'm saying? But as to the family, he was Dom. He was Dominique. He was always Dom. But he was also Shaheed Akbar too. You know what I mean? And that was my family. So, yeah, man, that brother was a light to the world, man. The world, and it kind of like showed the testament when, tragic accident happened. You know what I'm saying? And how many people reached out and was like, yo, man, rest in peace to the Jack, rest in peace to the Jack, from the East Coast, down south, wherever. You know what I mean? LA, they love the Jack. He was working on something with Nipsey Hussle, before he left. And Nip, ended up becoming a great artist as well, and had that same kind of compassion for the people. Like, and that was the thing about Jack, man. Our relationship was more so about giving back to the people in the midst of all of that chaos. It's like, man, everybody didn't think the same. You know what I mean? Like, you can listen to our songs and stuff like that, and you can kind of like see what we own. We was still on some stuff like, yo, the mob music is just mob music. I mean, we lived a certain kind of lifestyle. Again, we were dealing with lemons. Feel me? So we were trying to make lemonade out of the lemons that they gave us. You feel me? But it was like we really, really was trying to do something better. That's why we became Muslim, right? And that was another thing, is that through talking to him, he really convinced me about Islam. I grew up around friends that was Muslim and everything, but he really used to talk to me about Islam so much where I'm like, you know what, bro, I'm gonna go take my shahada, bro. You know what I mean? So I say that I'm Muslim because of that. Shaheed Akbar.
Interesting. And I think, and I'm glad you had a relationship with him, and I'm glad he inspired you to grow to be the person you are today. I think for maybe a lot of people, and including myself, when based on my knowledge of the Jacka, I was under the impression that his hometown, or where he originated from, was Pittsburgh, California. But you provided some personal insight that maybe a lot of people was unaware of, which based on your experience, it seems that he originally was living in Richmond. Is that where he originated from?
Jack lived all over the Bay Area. Jack lived all over the Bay Area. So when we say that he from Richmond, from Oakland, or Pittsburgh, I think he said it best. I think his mom's Rita, she said it best. Like, they lived where they could live. Like, wherever she lived at, that's where they was at, right? So he lived in Richmond before he lived in Pittsburgh. Yeah, it's true. But he grew up in Oakland too. He lived in Oakland for a little while as well. Before he came to Richmond, he was living in Richmond though, and he had when I met him, he was living in Richmond. So he lived a lot of years in Richmond. But when he had went to Pittsburgh, the reason why you probably looked at it like that is because when he started doing music, a lot of cats from Pittsburgh embraced it. They really supported their movement, and that's kind of like where that came from. That's why they thought all of the mob figures, first they didn't know where they was from based on their sound, If you was from the Bay, you thought probably like all of the mob figures came from Pittsburgh. You know, Rob Lowe, the creativity behind the mob figures, the producer and creativity, you know what I'm saying, was Rob Lowe, Mackie, them dudes right there, they sat down and, they was, behind the Jack the whole way. Rob Lowe, Hustler, Jack, they grew up with each other. So that was all Pittsburgh right there, right? So, Jack easily, like I say, he could fit in anywhere. You could put him in Brooklyn and he'll fit in over there. So it was just that, and he just was like, man, I'm gonna rep Pittsburgh, but if you listen to a lot of the music, he'll tell you like where he's from. He really though, no, I rep the rich though. I mean, like I grew up in Oakland, I lived in Oakland a little bit, but I rep the rich. Pittsburgh is what put him on. So it's a lot of people think that he's from Pittsburgh. That's cool because we rep Pittsburgh too. Like it's like we from the Bay Area, we rep everywhere in the Bay Area. You know what I mean? It's like if you really from the Bay, if you a Bay boy, you everywhere anyway. Especially somebody of that caliber that really put his people on, man. He didn't want to isolate himself like that anyway. So
okay,
I get where that comes from though. Yeah. Okay,
appreciate that. And then I want to go to the next topic of discussion, where at the beginning of the interview you said that you were wrongfully convicted of a crime that you did not commit. And so what can you tell me about the incident and how you are wrongly convicted for this crime?
In a nutshell, it was some individuals, it was actually 4 individuals that went to a drug deal, and the drug deal went south. And the facts that from that point on got murky. Like I said, I wasn't in. But as I'm sitting in the trial, what the facts that came out, it was so murky. It was more so like, the other guys that were selling the drugs shot at the guys, shot at the individuals that was African American that I ended up allegedly being associated with. They shot at them first, but then it was it was like a car chase or something like that, and it was a shooting that happened, a shootout that happened, and one of the individuals that was a drug dealers had got shot and killed. Another one had got shot. So when I got arrested, this is all I know. It was a drug deal that went bad. It was a shooting that happened. One person got killed. Another dude got, is still living. A part of this whole situation. And it was a woman. It was a woman that was supposed to have been with him too. So the first thing I can do is just be like, hey, yo, go find that woman and go find that dude. Mm-hmm. The one that's still living. And say, and ask him, was I there? This is what I told my lawyers, because I ain't get no statement to the police other than, I don't know what y'all talking about. You know what I'm saying? I ain't had nothing to do with it. And where my lawyer at? You know what I'm saying? That was the statement as much as it is that I gave him. So when I talked to my lawyers, my trial attorneys, that's what it was at. Because I'm completely blindsided by this. I mean, I'm living in Henderson, Nevada at this time. I'm not even in California. So when they telling me all of this thing that's going on, I'm like, yo, where y'all coming at this? You know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't even been in about a couple weeks or something like that. You feel me? So it was like they were saying it was in a whole other spot. It wasn't even in Richmond. So I had to choose on how I was going to do my defense, right? And everything it is, what I can do is I can go ask the witnesses. My investigator had went to go talk to the witnesses, and they said that I wasn't there. Oh, bam. So now, all of the fingerprint evidence, I asked, my investigator, what's up with that? You know what I mean? If all of these people left fingerprints, where am I at? He said, man, you've been exonerated or you've been excluded as prints, as the maker of any prints that's in that vehicle. So I'm like, all right, cool. Right? I mean, if you ain't got no witnesses to place me in the scene of a crime, and you actually got somebody also that's saying that, hey, he wasn't there. It ain't just that it wasn't witnesses to place me at the scene of a crime. It was actually a witness that was a surviving victim that said that I wasn't there. At that point in time, I was actually going to a court-ordered class, you know, at around the time that the crime happened, or within some hours or something like that, they said that the crime happened, and I signed in to that class. I was sitting in that class. So that was my alibi. I'm like, yo, how can I be at this class and be a part of this crime? So what the DA said was that wasn't my signature. Like, hold on. The DA can't do that without a handwriting expert. With a handwriting expert, if that wasn't my signature, he would have did everything he could to prove that wasn't my signature, but he couldn't. You know, so it was like, it was all, you know, and I don't like to use this like this because, you know, I don't want to make it seem like it was a racial incident, but it was. No, it was more so of like, it was some individuals up there that just didn't like African Americans. You know, before it is that I went to trial, they told me that I was guilty. Before they even heard any evidence, they said I was guilty. They said, ain't no black man gonna get a fair trial in this county, and that's Trinity County. I'm like, wow. I'm like, you know, so how we gonna get a fair trial up here? And the answer is that I wasn't gonna get a fair trial up here, and the DA knew it. The DA, Michael Harper, knew it. He was like, he used his home field advantage against me to say, I'm gonna violate this man's rights, irregardless of the cost. I'm finna get a conviction. You know, so he knew that the evidence that he presented against me was false. He knew that they put a lot of pressure on these men up there to say, we gonna give y'all the death penalty. So the dude that they used as a star witness, he was shaking in his boots. He's like, man, you know, I ain't finna go to death row, right? And it was like, you know, so he just started saying something. He just started saying, okay, you know, hey, I know who was involved. And then he pointed at me and said that I was involved. The DA in a trial before mine already made the determination that this dude was not credible. I mean, if this dude would have been credible as a witness, the one that they ended up using, then they would have gave him a deal to begin with. But yet they waited until after the first trial was done when they said that guy that was on trial was the shooter. He was the main perpetrator of the crime, right? And once it did that he got found guilty, the DA then switched his theory and said that I was a shooter. He said now that this dude that he originally said that was not credible, that was lying and was lying to save his own skin, is now telling the truth. All of the best evidence, all of the most credible evidence contradicted what this star witness was saying. All of the witnesses, all of the best credible evidence in the case has said the description of the shooter, the clothing that the shooter was wearing, and all of that. And none of it matched any description that was given of me ever. Like, oh, you go back to junior high school and you won't find a description of that, of what they said that the shooter was wearing, and the height of the shooter, and the weight of the shooter, and all of that, right? So the thing is with me is I say, you know what? I know I ain't had nothing to do with nothing anyway. And maybe it was a nonchalant way of thinking about it, but I was like, I'm going to be found not guilty anyway. Even though the jury said it is that they thought that I was guilty, I didn't know really what I was involved with. So now that, because we should have been at the NAACP door with that. We should have been like, yo, this dude is going to trial up here, and there's no way that he's going to get a fair trial. Listen to what the jurors are saying. Look at what the evidence is. And there was no way that I should have went to trial up there. There's no way that none of us should have went to trial up there, to be honest with you. And the DA manipulated that whole situation and wanted to get what he got. He got everybody without the possibility of parole. Except the person that they said in the first trial was lying, they gave him 6 years. Right? But it was only to further his wrongdoing. You know? They were just like, man, so now, you know, by the grace of the Most High, man, you know, I've been writing Innocence Project after Innocence Project, and just like movie and Ruben Hurricane Clark, so he had some people to help. Right now, I have some people that, you know, believe in my innocence, and, you know, I don't want to go too far into the court proceedings and, you know, where we at in court, but they help me advocate for my innocence right now as well, you know, so praise be to God for that, man. And I'm just hopeful and determined, not only show of my innocence and stuff like that, but to be an advocate to the youth. And that's another reason why I do what I do. You know, Brother Keith, is because I really believe that in America, it's two kind of justice, and it's for two different kind of people. And I'm one of the people that's looked at as being in poverty and a troublesome individuals, and my rights is just not protected under the Constitution.
I hope that the court ruling will be reversed, and that you will be back home sooner than later. It does seem how you described the incident that there was some malintent in terms of them targeting you, especially given where you were at the time of the crime. So I pray that you will be completely exonerated, and I also hope, if possible, that you will receive some sort of settlement for you being incarcerated for such a long period of time.
Yeah, nah, for sure. But like I say, it ain't even about the money. For me, it's about my freedom and clearing my name, period. I'm looking at it like, no matter what, as soon as it is that I get out, I'm going to do what it is that I'm supposed to do anyway in the community, and that's going to be my wealth. You know what I mean? But, that's usually what comes with that, with Shield. Everything it is that I do is going to be for the people, man. I'm going to give back to the community, irregardless. So,
okay.
I just want my freedom, and I want my name cleared.
Right. Yeah, I'm hopeful that it will be cleared. So then we're going to move on to another topic, and that's fatherhood. And you did mention that you have two identical twin daughters, and I can imagine the challenges of
they paternal. They just maybe look identical because of, they look like me and they mama. So you know what I'm saying? They might look identical, but they fraternal.
My mistake. I didn't intend to say that. I meant to say fraternal twins. So you have two fraternal twin daughters, and I can imagine the challenges of being a father who is currently imprisoned, and being supportive to them at a distance. So how are you able to nurture your daughters given your current situation?
Man, every time I have a conversation with them, I just keep it real. I just be genuine. I just make sure they know that I love them and I'm proud of them. I appreciate them. Ever since they was little girls, they used to sleep on my chest. Both of them used to fit right on the middle of my chest, so they could hear my heartbeat, and they are my heartbeat, right? So everything that I learned, I share with them. So when they was little girls, I at least tried to get them a foundation, education, mannerisms, ethics. So now that they're grown, I'm learning a lot from them. They didn't. Both of them graduated school, by the grace of the Most High, man. And one of them is going to school to be a doctor right now. She's going to college. She's in like her 8th or 9th year in college, and doing exceptionally well. And they're both entrepreneurs. The other one, she has a beauty salon out there that's really thriving. She has aspirations to continue her education and going to Harvard, or some HBCU. But it's like, I think, with parenting from up in here, we have to just show them, not only be an open book, but we have to show them that we care and we support them in whatever they do. And that's what it is that I did. I just sit down, and talk to my daughters. They come visit me when they can, and I'm very appreciative of that. And we just really have conversations. And with those conversations, they take it and run with it. So they choose to say they're going to be great at whatever they do. You know what I'm saying? Whether I'm there or not. Sometimes it is they may rely on me for information. Other times they might rely on their mother, their grandparents, because they have a huge supporting cast, right? But as a father, if I support them, whatever it is that they do, they gonna come to me and they gonna ask me, say, Daddy, what's up? And I'm gonna tell them what's up. I'm gonna tell them the real, you know. And they know that I love them, and they remember when I was out. So it'd be more so like, okay, we finna do that. And it's kind of amazing because we have a connection, even though we far apart. We have a connection, whereas them girls just like for real. And like when it comes to intellectual beings, when it comes to humility, when it comes to things like that, like etiquette and stuff like that, it's just like we're so much alike. We're so relatable. Whereas when I say something to them or they say something to me, we understand and appreciate where we're both coming from, because they 26 years old now. You know, they not the little girls that they were when I left. So now I'm listening to them just like they listen to me. That's what really being a parent is about. It's like I never talk down to my children. I mean, like I always talk. You know, I never talk at them or nothing like that. It was always like, even when they was little girls, 20 years old, I never fool God got them or nothing. Just ask, baby, what you want to do? You want to do this? Okay, look, this is what we got to do. This is what we're going to do, right? And, you know, cause I'm trying to understand where they at. They might point to something. And them girls are so smart. They used to point at certain things, and they'll make me look, and then I already know what they talking about without them even having to say it. So I excel in education, and then I noticed this too. They graduated high school, they started getting higher degrees in education as well. Whether it was cosmetology school, whether it was 4-year universities. So I did the same thing. I said I have to be at the same place that they at least. While I'm here, I have to be able to show my daughters that I got an AA degree too. I got a business degree. All right. So it is, they be like, you know, so we kind of like, so we're thriving off each other. We vibing off of each other. So I'm an entrepreneur. They're an entrepreneur too. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yo, like, you know, this is kind of like how we maintaining that connection right here. It's like they be living on my legacy right here. You know what I mean? And so I'm just so proud of them girls, man. So
yeah, you know, I'm glad that your daughters and yourself inspire one another, which demonstrates that growth can inspire growth. And also it demonstrates how growth is not restricted to age. Like a child can inspire a father as a father can inspire a child. So yeah, I'm glad that y'all have that healthy relationship with one another. And I briefly want to talk about your parents as well. And so how are your parents supportive of you?
Both of my parents, my mother and my father, they always been in my corner, man, since I was a kid. I grew up in a single parent household, but both of them single parents were, you know, they had their hands on me. You know what I'm saying? They had a grip hold of me, you know, and that never changed. You know, they always had my back from day one. When I got incarcerated, you know, they believed in my innocence, and they was the first ones to actually, you know, come to me and see me. And they seen the look on my face. And I just looked at them, and I just was like, yo, no, I ain't had nothing to do with it. They knew it then. No, I ain't gonna lie to my parents, man. I ain't gonna lie to my parents. So what they do is they look at it, and they say, man, you know what? We got you. Whatever it is that you do, we got you. So, we've been paying for lawyers. We've been getting in contact with lawyers, so they come to see us every weekend, and they support me in anything it is that I'm doing. In fact, with my books, you know, my mother, she went out to the work site. She was like, "Hey, I'm gonna sell these books. I'm sell my son's books. He hold prayer services for me, you know, stuff like that." And she don't know I know this, right? But it was a couple of cats that came to the pen that was around me, and they was like, "Yo, so your mother Lisa?" Like, yeah. Like, yo, your mother she be praying hard for you, man. Oh, bro, that, you know what I mean? Like, she didn't know I know that. But it was like, that's just kind of like, our relationship, our bond. It's like, we have integrity for each other. We gonna do things out the presence of each other for each other, whether it is you know it or not. Right? And that's just how that's just how I was raised, man. That's just how my pops as well, he comes to see me no matter where I'm at. Say, no matter where you at in the world, son, if there's a way to get there, I'm gonna get there to come see you. And that's my dude right there. That's my dude. That's my ace spoon right there, man. Like, he gave me so many valuable lessons. I just remember, like, those kids used to pick me up, take me to the Richmond Steelers game, pick my partners up, my Brody, and he was always there for us. Whether it was baseball, we went to the Little League World Series, and I always remember him being there. And then when I look at some of my friends, he also was a mentor to them as well. So I'm just ever grateful for that dude, man. He had Steve's restaurant on 2nd and Cutting back in the day. So he showed me actually the ropes to entrepreneurship. All of his partners that was in Richmond, Ron's, Mark's Barbershop, a lot of people, man. James Cash Brothers that had a couple liquor stores out there. He knew all of these dudes, and they respected, even Master P, when he was out there, he associated with the dudes that was like, under my pop. My pop was like their mentor, right? So, a lot of the game, from our community, his Master P first shop was over there by 34%. That was in our actual neighborhood right there. So a lot of individuals that inspired me to be an entrepreneur, they was inspired by him. You know what I mean? So that helped me out a lot as well. And I remember at one time he told me, he said, I wanted to go somewhere with my partner, man, my brother E.W. Martin. And he said, you ain't going nowhere until you cut this grass. I'm like, what? I said, yeah, you can't go until you cut this grass. You've been BSing all morning, and you need to do this chore before you leave. And Pops ain't never get at me like that, so I thought he was upset or something. So I kicked his punch around there. I'm like, man, I ain't cutting nothing. And then he was like, all right, you ain't going nowhere. It's Pops, so I ain't finna just disrespect you. So I said, and just leave the house. So, my partner, my brother, E.W. Martin, he came over, he said, man, you know what, bro? He right. I'm going to help you cut the grass. And we knocked it out in 10, 15 minutes, and we got on about our business. You know what I mean? But that was a valuable lesson. Basically, it's like, whatever it is you're supposed to do it. That's what I got from that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can relate to what you're saying, and I'm glad that your father, was not a passive parent and just let you do things that, would stifle your growth in terms of just not having the sense of self-discipline and respect for someone who cares and appreciates and supports you. So, it seemed like that was a valuable lesson and experience for you, which I'm glad you had an opportunity to encounter. So we're reaching the end of the interview. I appreciate everybody for listening thus far. I am growing through listening to Kazi's testimony and interacting with him, and so I want to touch on the last segment of the episode, which is called the interpreting expressions segment, where in this segment I like to present an expression which can be in the form of a statement or a question that I've encountered on my journey of growth that was expressed by another individual, which is relatable to myself, and also is resourceful to myself in terms of me utilizing the expression as a form of inspiration. And so I want to share this expression, which is today is a quote, and hopefully as myself and Kazi share our interpretations of it, our interpretations will be relatable to one another as well as the listeners, which then can be used as a resource to for growth of ourselves as individuals. So today's interpreting expressions quote is, it says, "Life is a mirror, not a window. You see it as you are, not as it is." So I will, my first question to you, Kazi, is how would you interpret this expression?
It's gonna be. I look at it like life is a mirror, not a window. See it as you are, not as it is. It's a block. Is whatever I see about myself or I feel about myself, I'm gonna see in other people. They call that like self-projecting. If I think that I'm ugly, then I'm gonna see the world as being ugly. If I see myself as being an intellectual individual, a passionate individual, a powerful individual, then I'm gonna look at the world and see the same thing, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean what I'm looking at is real, neither, because I could be looking at myself in a mirror, and I didn't created a facade of myself. I didn't created this image of myself, and that's what I'm looking at. Whereas the window is what the world is. A lot of times, even for me, I used to only look at myself in the mirror, and I said first that was the first self introduction that I had to myself. What affirmations do I give myself? All right, self, you love yourself, you appreciate yourself, you value yourself, and all of that. All right, now I gotta be able to do the same thing outside of that window, though. I gotta be able to look outside of that window and say the same thing about the creation. Creator had created. You know what I mean? I gotta get out here and play. So when I was a kid, I wanted to be outside. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't just standing at the self-centered and stuff like that. I was more so outside. I was like, man, I have to be able to do or see what other people's culture was to understand and appreciate where I was at. I mean, so, and that's when I seen, and the title of my company is called Real Life Drama, because I see life as just being that. It's real. If I want to sugarcoat it, and if I want to be in the entertainment business and I don't want to keep it real, then that's a facade to me. That's you just looking in the mirror, and it's easy to do that. It's easy to just put yourself in just one space and just say, okay, you are a reflection of everything it is that you. Yeah, you are a reflection of everything that you do to a degree. You have to remember what's outside of you as well and have an influence on what you're looking at. When I went outside, if I learned how to play football today and I come back and I look at myself in the mirror, guess what? I'm going to say, man, you know what? You a bad MF, man. You could play that football really well, or you could play that basketball really well. But I learned that by looking outside that window, looking through that window. I have a view. It's called a world perspective, a worldview perspective, where when I look at the world, I see it as it is. I see what's going on in the world right now today as what it is. I don't try to sugarcoat it. I don't try to be biased towards it. And I think that helps me with my individual journey of growth as well. If I say that I can go anywhere in the world and be successful, then when I want to go on a vacation, it's not to Vegas. I'm like, yo, it may not even be to Dubai, right? It might be to Mecca. It might be to South Africa. It might be to Egypt. It might be to Israel. It might be somewhere else in the world that I want to go to. And I say, you know what? I can do it. But if I keep just looking at myself, sometimes I believe that sometimes we have to look outside of ourselves, get to places that we ain't never been before, because other than that, we don't know how to get there. It's like a navigational system. If I have never been to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, how I'm gonna get there? I got to use a navigational system. No. Once I get there that first time, I may not need a navigational system no more. But I have to be able to look outside of myself as well, and that's releasing a lot of core beliefs. That might be releasing a lot of, hidden biases that I may have for people or certain places. And I might have to just say, yo, if I want the best for what it is that I'm doing, I got to look outside that window. I got to go get it. But at the same time, when I look in the mirror and I'm looking at my step, I should be able to smile. I should be proud of who it is that I am today. Even though I'm incarcerated and I've been in jail 22 years, wrongfully convicted and incarcerated, and it's stressful. It's a stressful situation. I would say this: proud of who it is that I've become, even in the circumstances. So when I look in the mirror, I'll be like, yo, I'm good. I'm gonna be better when I get up out of here for sure. But I made the best out of a bad situation. I ain't making no excuses.
Okay. I can relate to what you're saying. I think my interpretation of it is, well, when I think of a window, I think of a man-made construct. Like, we don't see windows in nature. But I'll also say we don't see mirrors in nature either.
Right.
However, what I have seen in nature is reflections. And I think how I interpret the aspect of the quote, mirror, I interpret it more so as a reflection. And so, when I stand in front of the mirror, I think firstly, when I stand in front of a mirror, like there's an intention for being in that place in the first place. And the question is what is the intent? And also, what is and I think, like, when it comes to a window, which is a man-made construct, sometimes the window that's provided to the individual, we may not know what the intention is for it. Like, I've heard statements where people say the world is yours, or the sky is the limit. Those are verbal expressions, which is similar to a physical expression where someone made a window. And the question is how willing am I to accept and adopt those expressions in my life? And I think, there is value for windows, but it's also important to have an awareness of what the intention for the construct is. And so, depending on the individual who creates the construct, it may be created for oppressive reasons, but it could also be created for supportive reasons. Right. But when it comes to like a reflection, which is not created by man, I think that is in a way like a way to have an awareness of the spiritual realm as well, and realizing that the natural world is out of our control, but it could also reflect us as individuals based on how we conducted ourselves and based on what our intentions are. So if I frown my face in front of a mirror, the reflection seems to emulate my intentionality to frown my face. And so you can also experience something similar when you're out and about, walking down the street. If I am leaving my dwelling space, be it an apartment or even a prison cell, and I'm already angry, which is something that I initiated within, it's possible that when I am amongst other individuals, that I might attract a reflection of that intentionality in the form of someone else approaching me or looking at me in an angry manner. And so if and I think that's why it's important to be aware of ourselves and our intentions, so that when we engage and interact with the external world, which could be in the form of a window or a mirror, we can interact in an efficient manner, especially when it comes to unexpectancies in life, right? And those unexpectancies, we try to deal with those to the best of our capabilities in the present moment. And if we have a sense of our intentionalities prior to that unexpected encounter, I think it will help us to deal with the unexpected to the best of our capabilities. So I don't think a window is problematic. I just think windows can also be limiting as well, because with a window you have a certain perspective of what you're seeing from one side of the window as well. And so that's why you were saying, like, it's important to venture out and enhance your awareness and perspective of the outer world, and not stay behind that window, which can also be a comfort zone for some people. 'Cause you can experience a mirror, like whether you're inside of a house or even like when you're out and about, or a reflection when you're out and about outside of your walls of a living space. That can be walking down the street and looking at your reflection in a window, or having a conversation with a beautiful woman and she's wearing sunglasses at the beach. Things of that nature. So I just think the way I interpret it is a mirror. A mirror is, how did it say? Life is like a mirror, not a window. You see it as it is, not as you are. I mean, you see it. Yeah. Oh, how did it say? You see it as you are, not as it is. Because external energy is outside of my awareness and intentionalities. It's really a mystery in at the end of the day, because the intent of others, or even like, for example, the wind that blows on our face, I don't know what the intention is for the wind, but I do sense it and I do feel it. But I do believe it has a purpose. It seems to have a purpose, but what I am aware of is my own intentionalities, and hopefully through my interactions, there can be some form of relation with external energy and my own energy as an individual too. So that's my interpretation.
Nah, that's deep, bro. But see, that's why you the sociologist and all of that. You know what I mean? so that's deep, though. I really appreciate that insight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you.
That's how it is that I learn, though, bro. Like, I continue to, I appreciate different views. Cause when you ask that to me, I'm just like, well, hey, this is what it mean to me. And like you say, this is your perspective and what it mean to you. And then from both of those different perspectives, you can kind of like grasp up from it. I mean, it's just really about being successful in life and whatever it is that we do. So, just never know where that gym gonna come from. Just left something right there.
Yeah, I appreciate you too. I thank you for sharing your story with me, as well as the listeners, and definitely will stay in contact And I hope that you will continue to grow. I hope this conversation was a resource for you as well. And if you could speak a little bit loudly, it was because there was some static coming through. It could be the reception, but what would your parting words be?
Shout out to all of the listeners. Growth and development is very important. You have to first understand who you are and where you want to be as a person, and continue to, just thrive in what it is that you feel in the areas that you need improvement in, as well as stay consistent with what you are great at. Everybody have a potential to be great. You just got to believe in yourself and do as you see. You know what I mean? Lead by example. Just know that you always being watched, so don't ever take no days off. Continue to follow the brother Kite, in his podcast, because he's going to continue to hit y'all with some knowledge, with some gems for different people, stuff like that. And stay for community. Peace.
Okay. Thank you for those parting words. My parting words is I encourage people to have a sense of humbleness and also sense the opportunity at present to better yourself. I think Kazi is an inspiration to me because despite him being hindered by not being able to move within a certain perimeter logistically, it seems that he's still attracting opportunity for him to grow in the circumstance that he's in, which, I'm thankful that he's able to do. And I think he demonstrates that whether you are incarcerated or not, opportunity is available to him as well as myself, and hopefully everyone else. It's just a matter of not falling into the temptation of being self-distracted, which causes one to lose sense of opportunity to better yourself. And through engaging with the opportunity to grow, you can enhance yourself in a multitude of ways, such as self-discovery, discovering something that you didn't know about yourself through your interacting in this unknown opportunistic experience, as well as enhancing your identity and skill set. Because once you've completed a task, you can say with confidence, I am this, I am that. I am a coach. I am a mentor. It wouldn't be a facade because you've actually experienced and engaged in an opportunity which allowed you to become what you are, which is very valuable. It's very essential to have a sense of your identity, because if you don't, then you can potentially adopt a false identity, which you then no longer are who you authentically are. So this is what I've learned from Kazi today. And so, I just thank you all for tuning in. I hope you all will enjoy the rest of the day. I appreciate you. I hope you have a good day.